Welcome back to Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay, and here we go over everyday Hebrew you need in Israel to succeed and thrive, whether that's learning how to read and pay your utility bills, going grocery shopping, and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, going on a job interview, dating, whatever it may be that you do all the time in your native language, in your country of origin, but here in Israel in modern Hebrew. As always, we want to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover. If we haven't in the past, or if you'd like us to do a review, please email us at hebrew@nbn.org.il. If you're joining us live on Zoom, you can just simply write in the chat window if you have any requests for specific topics. Otherwise, please email us when you'd like. You can also see all of our previous lessons on YouTube. Just type in Cafe Oleh or Nefesh B'Nefesh. You'll see a whole playlist of all of our classes, including spreadsheets with the vocabulary that I normally share here online, but you'll be able to download it. You can also sign up for Cafe Oleh via email, and you'll get those right to your email inbox. Like I said, we always want to hear from you. It's really important that this is as user-focused as possible. So if there's topics you'd like us to cover, we'll do our best to turn it into a full lesson. With that, we have a few more classes in this specific semester, this spring session, if you will, till the end of the month of June. Then we're going to take a few weeks of break and then come back for the summer with all sorts of new classes and ideas. So really want to hear from you on topics. Today, we are going to go over some everyday Hebrew, really in the context of slang. And we talk about slang here a lot. And slang is integral to all languages, whether it's no matter where it is and what it is and how old or young the language is. It shows how a language develops and evolves naturally. We can't have all the rules that we want, but slang is often how we see the language actually working and using and being used. Today's topic is one I introduced last week. It comes from an author. His name is Lior Noyfeld, and he wrote a post on social media that went viral here in Israel. It's all in Hebrew, and it's the 40 most Israeli expressions. It got picked up by all sorts of other channels, and it was really popular. It's very funny. We're going to only go through a little under half of them. Some of them are not relevant. You probably won't hear as often. Some of them, I've gotten quite a bit of pushback from some of you with regards to the language we use here, even though it's the language you're going to hear all the time in Israel. It's not always the most PG or PG-13 language, but I understand those sensitivities, so we're not going to teach those either. And so I picked a few of them that you're really going to hear on a regular basis, either that you're going to use or that someone else is going to be interested in using in your surroundings. And you'll see how we're going to do this. We're going to work together in translating these expressions. So as always, I'm going to share my screen. If you have any questions while joining us live on Zoom about this specific class, please write it in the Q&A. If you have any questions about anything else, please write it in the chat. I'm only going to be looking at the Q&A in this lesson and be reviewing the chat in the next few days. So let me open up the spreadsheet for today. Just one second. Perfect. Okay, there it is. Okay, so what we're looking at, as always, is the English on the left, transliteration on the right, Hebrew in the middle. And as we go, I'm going to highlight the actual expression we have. And the way this worked in his social media post, which again is the one that went viral, is he gave the expression, and you'll see it numbered here. And then he gave a definition and or an example of how it's to be used. And we're going to translate the definition together. It's going to be difficult Hebrew, but most important is the actual expression, because that's what you're going to hear. This is like, think of it like going through a dictionary in English. The actual word is usually a word or a few words as an expression, and then the definition is a little bit more detailed. That's what we're going to look at today. So you know how these are used, when they're used, and maybe, hopefully, you'll use some of these in your everyday conversation. Excuse me. So with that, let's get started with number one over here. Let me just move my screen over. Okay, first one, mazeze. And that's how you're supposed to say it. And this is not incorrect. Again, this is the 40 most Israeli expressions. This is coming from slang. So if you're confused, that's perfectly all right. Because all of you, if you learned Hebrew in a formal setting, you know the expression mazeh. What is this? Or what is that? This is not asking exactly that. It's asking mazeh, and it's supposed to be said like that. And here's what the definition says. We're going to translate it together, and I'm going to write it here in English. פליאה ממשהו שאנחנו לא מרוצים ממנו. An expression, a sense of wonder from something, ממשהו, from something, שאנחנו לא מרוצים ממנו. From something that we are not content or happy with. Merutzim is content or happy. Okay, so it's an exclamation about something we're not quite happy about. Hazeh hasheni, the second ze in mazeze, mevate et hazilzul choser haskama. The second of these two zes, because you see two of them, indicates what? Mevate expresses et hazilzul or choser haskama. The lezalzel b'mashu is to sort of denigrate. It's something negative, to denigration or disapproval is another way we can think of zilzul, or choser haskama, the lack of agreement. Shelanu, our agreement, lazeh shelefanav. Okay, so what it's saying is that this second zeh is expressing our lack of agreement, our choser haskama, towards the first thing, right? So if you simply say mazeh, what is this? But if you say mazezeh, it's like more like what's this? Literally, what's this? Or what the hell is this? Okay, this is another way to say what the heck is this, for those of you who don't like the other word. Okay, or what's this literally. Okay, it's a really, you'll hear this. Again, these are all slang expressions, which are no less important when learning a new language than the actual standardized grammar and standardized vocabulary. This is everyday language. So mazezeh, this is an expression of wonder towards something which we are not happy about. The second ze, as it says here, ze, expresses a lack of agreement towards the first ze's existence. Okay. Let me just make sure you can see all of these. Perfect. Okay. Second one. Ata chai tovata. You'll see the transliteration on the right-hand side. Again, I want you to just focus on the expressions themselves so you can use them, and together we're going to define them. Okay. Ata chai tovata. I hear this one a lot. Or eze chaim tovim is another version of this. Atai chai tovata, and that's how you're supposed to say it, is, oh, you live well, don't you? Or you live well, you do, right? And it says here, gam kan, here in row 5, gam kan, ha'ata hasheni no'ad lehadgish et choser ha'merutzot shelanu. מהעובדה שמישהו אחר חי טוב יותר מאיתנו. Also here, the second ata is there to emphasize the lack of contentness, the lack of agreement we have that someone is living better than us, right? So someone who sees you or vice versa on a break, right? Or taking the afternoon and going to the beach, or going on a walk or something like that. Out of jealousy, they would say, "Ata chai tov ata," or to a woman, "Ah, chaya tov at," right? They're emphasizing that, as this definition says, the second you, ata or at for female, is there to really emphasize the fact that you are not doing something I personally approve of. Okay, I've heard this before. Being self-employed, sometimes being able to take the afternoon and going to the beach or taking a walk, and someone catches me in the middle of that and they're having a bad day at the office and they'll say this to me, or they'll say, "Eze chaim tovim yesh lecha." Oh, what a good life you have. Okay, just seeing that initial outlook, this is the expression that's used. Okay, so here too, the second you is there to emphasize the lack of contentness with, what did it say? With lack of our contentness with the fact that someone else is living better than us. Okay. Again, this is an expression you say usually off the cuff. You're having a bad day. It's not necessarily about someone's standing. It's usually about something that they're doing in the moment that you catch them at. Okay. Great one. Efo telech. Now, before all you raise your hands and say, wait a minute, I learned in Hebrew class that it's le'an telech. And you are absolutely correct. When you want to say, where are you going or where will you go? In the sense of just asking out of general information, it's le'an. When we say to where something is going or someone is going, we use the question word le'an. But here, it's not that. It's efo telech. And this is a different one. This is slang, and it's saying it is a bitui mishmeo mashmao. My automatic Nikud generator messed up there. That's okay. Bitui shemashmao en lecha le'an lalechet po ze achi tov avurcha Abba. It's an expression whose meaning is en lecha le'an lalechet. Here's the le'an, right? You don't have anywhere to go. En lecha le'an lalechet, po ze achi tov avurcha Abba. Here is the best place for you, Abba. And we're going to learn why they use the word Abba in a second. Okay, so if someone says to you, after you explain you're going on vacation, or you're going to check out something, or you're going to go for a walk or something like that, no one says, Efo telech, they're judging you on going somewhere, and they're saying you don't need to go anywhere. You're good right where you are. Okay. Meaning you don't have anywhere to go. Here is the best place for you. We'll say dude for now. Okay. Okay, Abba. Abba is very much slang. Yes, Abba means dad or daddy. In this context, Abba is really referring to, as it says here, be'ivrit medubar bakinui lehore zachar. Okay, in Hebrew, this word means a male parent. Okay, hore zachar. Hore is a parent, zachar, masculine or male. In Hebrew, this word normally means a male parent, but in Israelit, and that's what we're talking about here, folks. When we talk about slang, this author, Lior Noyfeld, is talking about Israelit, slang, Israeli language, meaning the slang that's been incorporated over years of using Hebrew as well as adopting all the other languages we speak. But in Israeli, this ze kinui lechol adam b'asher hu adam. In Israeli, this is a nickname for every person who's a person. Everyone's an Abba. whether they're gender, whether they're anything, everyone's Abba. You can think of it like dude, right? The best way to think of dude, Abba in this context is dad, is dude, excuse me, or man. I'll write that here, dude or man, in the most genderless, gender-inclusive way possible. Okay, Abba. In Hebrew, it means a male parent. In Israeli, it's a nickname for anyone who's anyone. Abba. Okay, this next one, again, it is not meant, it can be taken, and you'll see that even in the definition. This one you're going to hear. It is not always meant to be pejorative or insulting. It just sounds like it when we translate into English, is bimashcha. Bimashcha, and you're going to see where it comes from in a second. Be'od Abba hu kol adam. Okay. Let me just highlight as we're going. Be'od Abba hu kol adam. As Abba is every human being, every person, right? That word that we just had now that we translated as dude or man. Ima, he ima. Mom is mom, right? Ima is the word that we know for mom or mommy. Ima, he ima. Mom means mom. The imashcha, and again, my automatic nikud generator, the dots and bars that indicate vowel sounds in Hebrew, doesn't know this word. So I'm going to take it out. Ve'imashcha ze kitzur shel tishba be'ima shelcha. Ve'imashcha is a kitzur, is a shortcut, is a contraction of the expression swear on your mother's life. Okay? Tishba be'ima shelcha, swear on your mother's life. Okay? We also know this expression not just as swear on someone's life or swear on your mom or swear on your whatever, whomever is also your mom, as in your mama, all those jokes, okay? But it can mean both things at the same time. So the latter is a little bit more offensive, as we're also going to see in a second. But the first one we hear quite a lot, swear on something. Mishamesh gam kekriyat zilzul. Okay, it's also used as a insult, as an epithet, as we just said. Ledugma, for example. Wow, I really didn't like this word, did it? There it is. Okay. For example, be'imashcha ata madif chips batanur. Wow, someone who likes chips batanur. It's a different conversation to be had. Okay, you swear that you prefer chips, or chips here meaning French fries, baked in the oven, right? Again, this is slang. This is everyday casual talk, folks. No less important than anything else we've learned along the way, if not as important, because this is the everyday language you're going to hear, if not use, but certainly hear. And this is the context you would use this word. You seriously? Like, you swear that you prefer chips made in the oven? Okay, that's what it means here. Seriously, or you swear. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh man, it did a terrible job. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to go over the nikud again before we send this out as a spreadsheet, just to make sure that you can read this on your own, because some of these are just not right. Okay, kabel. Kabel comes from the verb lekabel, to get or to receive. And in this context, kabel is going to mean come and get it. Let me explain. Bitui, shehu hakdama lemashu she'anachnu yodim la'asot tov. Bitui, an expression, shehu hakdama, that is a introduction, that is a prologue, lemashu, for something, she'anachnu yodim la'asot tov, that we know how to tell. למשל, for example, לא מאמין שאני יודע להקפיץ כדור טניס על האף, קבל. You don't believe, for example, and here's a quote, as to give an example to further define this. You don't believe that I know how to bounce a tennis ball on my nose? Here you go. Okay, it can be come and get it. It can also be here you go. Okay, so it's taking the verb lekabel, turning it into what he calls Yisraelit, Israeli language, Israeli Hebrew slang, and coming up with how you're going to hear this word used on an everyday basis. So an expression. If it'll let me do that, no. Sorry. An expression, which is a introduction to something which we know how to do well. For example, you don't believe that I can bounce a tennis ball on my nose. Here it goes. Or check this out. Or here you go. Or come get this in the most slang sense. Okay. One that we probably have all said or wanted to know how you say this. The typical way we say this next one is Shumia. Do you hear me? Right? We've all experienced this, whether it's on Zoom, here online, or on your phone, or whatever it may be. The classic way that you ask someone if they can hear you is Shomea to a man or Shomat to a female. This is taking it the next step and is saying Achshav ata shomea, right? And why does that say? Here's what the definition says in row 15 here. במקרה ואתה משוחח עם מישהו בטלפון. In the chance that you are conversing with someone on the phone, ואין קליטה, and there's no reception, והוא לא שומע אותך טוב, and he doesn't hear you well, אתה לא זז ממקומך כמה שניות, לא עושה דבר בנידון, ואז שואל, עכשיו אתה שומע? לרוב איכשהו זה באמת פותר את הבעיה. So what happens, right? We say shomea first, the person doesn't hear us. In the chance that the person still doesn't hear us and there's no reception, and they don't hear you well, you don't move from your place. You don't do anything whatsoever. And then you ask again, עכשיו אתה שומע? As if we somehow miraculously solved the problem, right? We've all been in this situation before. Now we have an expression for it. It's not just shomea. Now, after a few rounds, it's עכשיו אתה שומע, just letting the gods of cellular reception do their job. Okay, so to be said after not being able to hear one another, not moving or doing anything different. And then asking it as if you've suddenly solved the problem. Okay. A great one. You've probably all dealt with this before, not just as Olim, but as just everyday situations in Israel. אני רק שאלה. אני רק שאלה. You are in a line at the kupa, at the cash register. The cash register also has different items behind it. It could be at a bakery and it has different baked goods behind it, or it has a coffee bar behind it. Or you're at an office and you're trying to get service from the clerk at the front of it, right? And someone all of a sudden sidles up to you in the line and they look at you and the person behind the counter and they say, אני רק שאלה. Ani rak she'ela is an everyday Hebrew expression without the slang that simply means I have a question, right? This is a different way to say yesh li she'ela. You can simply just say ani rak she'ela, okay? But this is taking it to a different level, right? This is the one that we know the actual definition of. When someone says ani rak she'ela, it really means bitui shemashma'o ani rak okef bator toda. Right? When someone settles up to you and you're thinking they innocently say, Ani rak she'ela, I just have a question. What it really means, according to this guy, is Ani rak okef bator. I'm just bypassing you in the line. Toda. Thanks a lot. Okay. So if you haven't learned this now, by the way, as Olim, whether you are fresh off the plane or not, if someone says Ani rak she'ela, I just have a question, they don't have just a question, they intend to cut in line in front of you or right behind you. That's what he's trying to emphasize here in this slang, this one of these top most Israeli expressions. Really meaning, I'm just gonna cut in line here. Thanks. Okay, next one. Voila, matim. This one I've definitely used before. Voila, matim. Voila is Arabic, and we've talked about this word before in the many classes we've done on slang. Voila is used both in Arabic and in Hebrew slang. It's proper Arabic, and it's also used in Israeli slang to mean wow, wowie, any sort of exclamation you want to say. Huh, wow, amazing, anything like that. If it helps in terms of the sound of it, you can think of it like the French voila. Voila in French, voila in Arabic. Very similar sound, similar meanings. Okay, voila matim, wow, that fits. Okay, and as he says here, the definition of it is Bali al ze, uvali al ze achshav. Bali is another classic Israeli slang expression you hear every day of the year. Bali means I want or I like. It's a combination of want and like at the same time. I like this thing. Uvali al ze achshav, and I want this now. Okay, so wow, that fits is one way to say it. This is, for example, if you're in a store and you asked a clerk's recommendation for things, and they give you a range of objects. And hopefully you're a little bit more of a savvy consumer to know that some of the things they pick out are going to be more expensive than others because they want to sell the higher price things. And you find the thing that makes sense for you. Either be you knew it in advance or you knew it on the spot. You can simply say, Voila, matim, right? I want it, and I want it now, is how we would best describe Voila matim. Let me just highlight that so you can see the expression. I'll go back and do that here as well. Okay. Okay, we did that. Now let's do the opposite. Voila lo matim. Huh, that doesn't fit. Lo bali al ze uveikar lo achshav. Okay. I don't like it, or I don't want it, and I especially don't want it now. I don't want it, and especially not now. Okay. Voila, lo matim. Someone says, can I come around? Do you want to meet up? Someone offers you something and it's just not the right time. This is another way to say it. Voila, lo matim. Okay, this next one is along the lines in terms of pricing of things. But we're not going to use it in terms of pricing. We're going to use this in terms of any of you who have been hearing screams of joy in the past week from the Mundialito, the under-20 World Cup Championship in soccer/football. Israel's under-20 team came in third, which was absolutely amazing. They had an amazing run. Most especially, they beat Brazil. Brazil being one of the biggest and most important football/soccer teams in the world. And it was a very tense, hair-raising event. People were glued to their TVs. I was coming back from an event in Tel Aviv, and I was walking through the streets, main streets of Tel Aviv, and every house that was watching it had their windows open, and you could hear the broadcast delay depending on how people screamed and when they screamed watching it, right? And an expression I could use if someone was walking down the street or if I was watching it is kama kama. Kama simply means how much, right? Kama kama, how much, as it says here, hitanyenut betotza'a hazmanit shel hamischak. Interest, hitanyenut, becoming interested, betotza'a hazmanit, in the current or the temporary result of the match. Mischak is a match, a game, a play also. So the idea is, if you're trying to catch up with something and you rush into a situation, a restaurant or a bar that's playing something, and you say, kama kama, someone is expected to give you the current result of where the points are at, okay? And this is also a way to feign interest in something, by the way. If you're pretending that you're actually interested in it, as happened at the time, it was genuinely a good game to watch. I was with some friends who, let's say, aren't so interested in football/soccer. This was a good cue for them to say something fitting in, but not really interested. Okay, so interest in the current results of a game/match. Okay, this is one that you're going to hear all the time. This is classic Israeli slang, and now we have a little bit more of a definition behind it. Ashkara, or Ashkara, depending on how you say the letter resh. Ashkara. Ashkara usually is a question mark, has a question mark after it. It means really. You can also say Ashkara, is that so? Or, you don't say. And you'll see why I say it exactly like that. Bitui, an expression, le, ani ma'amin lecha, or lach, aval gam ktsat lo. I believe you, ani ma'amin lach or lecha, depending on the gender of the person you're speaking to. I believe you, aval gam ktsat lo, but also a little, I don't believe you. Lemashal, for example, Yisrael movila 1-0 al Brazil. Ashkara. Again, it's referring to Israel's participation in that under-20 kaduregel match, that football/soccer match. And it says here, for example, Israel is leading 1-0 against Brazil. One person says, and the other person says, Ashkara. Again, because no one could believe Israel could ever beat Brazil in a sport, let alone in the sport of kaduregel, of football/soccer. Right? So that's how you would use Ashkara. I don't believe you, you got to be kidding, or really, or you don't say. Okay? An expression for I believe you, but I also don't believe you a little. Be you a little. This one I use a lot. Row 26. I use this one probably on a regular basis, and I highly encourage of a lot of these, the ones I picked, I think you're going to hear the most often, if not use. Number 26 is really important, and you're going to understand why as we go through it. Blank beramot. Blank beramot is best translated as exceedingly, or something is the English expression in spades, right? Or to the hilt, another English way to think of this expression. Magbir te'ur. יפה ברמות, טעים ברמות, מעניין ברמות, מה שבא לך ברמות, right? יפה ברמות. It's something that מגביר תיאור. It strengthens, it loudens, it increases the description that you are using. If something is yafeh, it's nice or beautiful. If something is yafeh beramot, it is exceedingly beautiful. It is beautiful in spades. It's coming out all places beautiful, right? It is beyond beautiful. And that's how we use this expression beramot after an adjective. So absolutely beautiful, exceedingly beautiful. Ta'im beramot is absolutely astoundingly tasty. Ma'anyen beramot, exceedingly interesting. Mashebarcha beramot, whatever you want, in spades and droves. Oved gam im, and this is where, because he's a little bit of a humorist, he writes, Oved gam im retzach o pachad. Retzach means murder, pachad means fear. So if someone says pachad beramot, exceedingly scary, or something is retzach beramot, it's a slayer, it's a killer, not in the literal sense, but like something slays me. This is how you would use that. Okay, something dash beramot, exceedingly. You're hyperbolizing what the thing is that you're describing, and this is a really important one because if you've spent enough time in Israel and you've spent enough time listening and using Hebrew, you know that we Israelis, whether we're born here, whether we've naturalized here, we love to over-exaggerate, okay? And this is a great way to show your over-exaggeration of something. Something beramot, why is it ta'im beramot? Listen the next time you go to a restaurant that's an actually good restaurant, and the people around you. It may not be the nicest of restaurants, because if someone exclaims loudly, why is it ta'im beramot, and you can hear them from the other table, chances are it's not fine dining. Chances are there might be, but you'll hear that all the time, because again, Hebrew has both a small amount of words with a lot of descriptive power behind them, but we have a small amount of words. We have big ambitions, big personalities. We love to over exaggerate. This is a great expression rather, that we use all the time. Highly encourage you to use it. Even if it's not your nature to over exaggerate things, you're going to hear this one a lot. I think it's worth using. We have talked about this next one, row 28 before, but it's worth going over again, especially because he further defines it in the next one after it. Row 28, para para. Para para literally means cow, cow. Para is a cow. Elite, one of the big food concerns in Israel that's been around forever and was one of the first chocolate bars that came out. The chocolate bar is known, excuse me, it was nicknamed Chocolat Para, literally a chocolate cow, because the label for all their chocolate products was a cow. And it still is to this day. So para para means cow, cow. In slang, however, it means slowly, slowly. If you've heard that expression, slowly, slowly, we have a lot of different ways to say that in Hebrew. We have actual Hebrew, le'at, le'at. We have another way to say this, which is shlav, shlav. Shlav is a step, so step by step. We have the Arabic expression, which is also entered everyday Hebrew expressions, which is shwai, shwai, slowly, slowly. And then we have para, para, which is straight up Hebrew, but very much slang. Cow, cow, slowly, slowly. As it says here, litapel bechol davar be'ito. A very fancy way to say slowly, slowly. Litapel, to take care of every single thing, be'ito, at its own time, at its own space, at its own pace. Okay? To take care of everything in its own time. And then the next one that goes along with it, as you'll see in a second, ken, lo, lo. Ken is yes, lo is no, right? So ken, lo, lo, literally yes, yes, no, no. Right? Some of the people on this call have come from cultures where you say yes, no, or yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. Those of you particularly from down under, you know what I'm talking about, or I think even North Americans say this as well. This is our version, ken, lo, lo. Except it's a little bit more Israeli than those sort of wishy-washy ways to say it, which is בסדר, פרה פרה, אבל תכלית כבר יעלשך. Great, really slang. Okay, בסדר, okay, para para, slowly, slowly, but decide already, you son of a gun. We're gonna keep it PG there. Okay, בסדר, okay, para para, all is good, ken, בסדר, para para, yes, slowly, slowly, אבל תחליט כבר, but decide already, יעלה שלך. It literally means your God. Allah is Allah, Shakha is that, but Ya is from Arabic, which is used when you directly speak to someone, communicate with someone before their name, but it's also used in Israeli slang and Hebrew slang to either compliment or denigrate someone. Right, so in this case, it's yes, take your time, but no, decide already, you piece of whatever you want to say. Okay, so ken, lo, decide already. Yes, take your time, but decide already. Okay, a great expression here. We're going to do a few more and then I'm going to take a break, and we'll certainly send you all of these ahead of when we send out the recording of this and then upload it to YouTube. Okay, this is a great one if any of you are introverts or you only know one person going to a party. Kama tasham literally means how much are you there? But it doesn't quite mean that. It means how much time have you already been there? And here's how it's defined. She'ela, it's a question. Shenish'elet lifnei erua, which is asked before erua, an event. כדי לברר שאתה לא יוצא פרייר עם הצ'ק. In order to ascertain, in order to verify, in order to be sure that you won't become a sucker, you won't be a sucker with the check. So this can be used going to a party and you need to buy something in advance for it, or a restaurant, for example, and everyone splits the bill between them, or anything that requires some sort of payment. It could also be a wedding, knowing that in Israel it's traditional to give a check rather than an actual gift from a bridal registry. It's a cost-benefit analysis for introverts. How shall we say? Kama tasham, it's as much about how much time you're there as much as how much you're actually putting down yourself, and other people are as well. Kama tasham, how much, right? A question that is asked before an event in order to clarify that you won't be a pushover with the check, right? This is wedding season now in Israel. This is a great question to ask a friend, for example, who just arrived at the wedding and you're on your way. You haven't written the check yet. You're not going to put it in the envelope until you get to the place. Again, very stereotypical Israeli, but very normal Israeli thing to do. And you're asking based on what they're putting in the security deposit at the entrance to the wedding hall. By the way, folks, if you didn't know that, I'm not exaggerating. This isn't biramot. This is really what happens at the majority of Israeli weddings. You're asking how much money they're putting in on their check, but this can also be used for any event where you have to put in some money, right? And that's kama tasham. It's not as much how much time are you there as much as it also is how much money are you putting into this event. Okay, I'm going to skip a few of them. I'm going to do this one and then we're going to break for questions, but I'm going to be sure that you get all of them with the right nikud before we upload this to YouTube. And those of you who are just subscribed to us by email, you will get a recording of this lesson along with the spreadsheet as a PDF attachment. This is a great one. You've probably figured out this one on your own or some other iteration of this one. A very Israeli/Jewish expression. Daseh ma she'ata rotzeh. do what you want. Now, this is coming from a male writer. It has a little bit of misogyny behind how he specifically translate this, but this can be used across genders, between genders, doesn't really matter. The guilt, the shame is there regardless of who's speaking. ביטוי בנשית שמשמעותו אל תעשה את מה שאתה רוצה. Okay, a feminine expression, this is his words, not mine. Remember this author who's writing it. A feminine expression whose meaning is don't do what you want to do. Okay, think of any time you've been guilted by someone, friend, parent, loved one, who says, תעשה מה שאתה רוצה, or the feminine, תעשי מה שאת רוצה. Do whatever you want, when you clearly know that's not what they want you to do, is anything you want. They want you to do the opposite or something completely different. This is how one of the ways you can say it in Hebrew, making it very clear, I don't want you to do whatever you think you want to do, but I'm going to tell you otherwise, okay? Actually, don't do whatever you want. Okay, there's a few more in here we didn't go over. I'll also send you the link to the original post. Again, there's some more salty, as we say, expressions in there, and some others you probably won't hear very often. But it's a great list. You'll also see how popular, it's become across social media platforms. Okay, let me take some Q&As here. First off, someone asks, are you looking for some of your classes? Are they findable on the internet? Are they available on the internet? Yes, youtube.com, youtube.com. Type in YouTube. When you get to the search bar, type in Cafe Oleh or Nefesh B'Nefesh. If you type in Cafe Oleh, the first result you see will be a playlist of all of our previous lessons. Click anywhere in there, you'll get access to absolutely all of them. If you go to Nefesh B'Nefesh, click on the subscribe button, you'll get an update every time our lessons are updated. Okay, let me, someone asks, what is the difference between mazazeh and mapitom? It's a great point. Mapitom is a little bit more, as we talked about the other week when we talked about how to complain. It's used as a complaint. It's also used as a mark of expression. Mapitom is a little bit more straight to the point. It's a little bit more gruff. It's a little bit more aggressive. Mazazeh is more judgmental, but it's not as gruff or aggressive. So mazazeh is a little bit nicer, but it's no less judgy. Mapitom is a little bit more sucker punch, as it were, with the judging and the gruffness. Mazazeh is a little bit lighter. So if you don't like mapitom, excuse me, as a way to express your concern or dislike over something, you can say mazazeh, which is a little bit softer, but no less judgmental. Best way to say that. Okay. Let's keep going. Yes, can atachai tov ata be sarcastic? Absolutely. Absolutely, it can be sarcastic. It's a it is a little mocking of the other person, and it's also showing the other person's jealousy a little bit. But yes, it can absolutely be sarcastic. What is the difference between Achi and Abba? Great question. These are really great questions, folks. Thank you for asking them. Achi and Abba. Achi and Abba in this context, I mean the exact same thing. Achi means my brother, literally, but we use Achi as a very casual term for anyone like yo bro. No one says yo bro anymore in 2023, but that's the idea. Like someone we don't know, but we're trying to be chummy with, we can call them Abba or Achi or any of these other terms of endearment. Means the exact same thing. Great question. Yes, Abba here in the slang sense is gender inclusive. It has nothing, as you says in the next one, it has nothing to do with gender here. It's like, what's up, my brother? But again, gender inclusive. Great question. Talking about replying to things like Ani rak she'ela. I just have a question. Someone asks, so when someone is cutting in line, what is the response to not allow it? There's a lot of different ways to say this, and this is a great question because it's also about your own comfort. Think about how you reply to someone in your native language when someone cuts in line. Given the circumstances, given your environment, given the situation, what are you going to say that's going to ensure you both are not taken advantage of, but also you're not putting yourself in any, God forbid, harm that something bad is going to happen, right? So usually what I will say when this happens, because usually it's taking place in a place that people should know better. Let's just leave it at that. And I'll simply say in Hebrew, slicha yesh tol. Excuse me, there's a line. And you have to say it very straight and confidently. This isn't a place to mince around with your Hebrew. You really have to have the confidence, not just in any language, to say, Slicha yesh tol. Excuse me, there's a line. You can simply say that. I think that's probably the best solution. There are other ways, certainly, to say that. But that's the simplest way I always say to someone. If someone even says, lo, ani rak she'ela. No, I just have a question. I will stare them down a few times, say, slicha yesh tol, until it's clear and they get the point. I'm really watching them where they're going to stand in line or not. What's the shoresh for Ashkara? Ashkara is not Hebrew in origin. It's not. So what the shoresh, what the root of the word isn't comparable because it's from a amalgamation of languages in the Middle East. Is 31 derogatory? Ken lo. No. Ken lo is yes, take your time, but decide already. Right? You want someone, you're giving someone a little bit of space, but you're also saying there is a deadline. It's not para. It's not take your time. It's let's go. Great question. Apropos weddings, do Israelis tip waiters at an event? Great question. This is, by the way, some important wedding etiquette because it is indeed wedding season. Number one, as I said before, traditional gift is a check. Depending on how well you know the bride and or groom and or family or not. For many years, the standard, and please don't come at me in the Q&A with exceptions to the rule. The standard, certainly for young professionals, if not young families, has always been 350 shekel per person. Okay, that has been it for most of the time. If there is waiter service as opposed to a buffet, okay, that's a big deal. If it's a buffet, you don't need to tip anyone else. If there's waiter service at your table at a wedding, yes, you are expected to give a tip. Usually, I think it's like 20 shekel, anywhere from 20 to 30 to even 40 shekel a person at a table. Okay. But if there is no waiter service and it's just buffet, you don't have to worry about tipping at a wedding. It's only the check at the entrance. Someone asked, can you give the complete transliteration for line 36? Ta'aseh ma she'ata rotzeh should be there. Sorry, I see it got cut off. I'll make sure that it gets fixed here. Let's actually do that right now. Ta'aseh ma she'ata rotzeh. Absolutely correct. Okay, we're going to stop here. Yes, I am going to give you, number one, a link to all of the to the original post of this so you can read it in full. the spreadsheet with all of these expressions and the definitions. And the recording of this will go up online on YouTube in the next few days, as well as by email. Folks, I see a lot of people continually asking in the Q&A, and hopefully also in the chat, you are not getting these emails. Hebrew, H-E-B, I'm gonna actually write this up because I say this every week and I wanna be sure it is crystal clear how to get in touch with us. We are absolutely communicable. You can get in touch with us anytime you'd like, okay? Hebrew at nbn.org.il. Please write us questions, comments, concerns. I'm not getting recordings. I'm not hearing Jay. I'm not seeing something. Please write us by email. Okay, we do get the chat transcripts. We go through them every week. We do not get the Q&A transcripts. That's simply how Zoom works, but email is still the best. Okay, so Hebrew at nbn.org.il. It's written in the chat box here. I'm telling you again, I'm spelling it, literally spelt it out for you. Please be in touch with us. We want to hear from you. This needs to be user focused, okay? If there's something you'd like us more to do, please be in touch with us. With that, we're gonna stop for today. Toda rabah, thank you all so much for joining. Next week, we are going to do another bit of Israeli culture, specifically with regards to music, but also an important anniversary, a sad one, but an important anniversary in Israeli history. Next week will be the anniversary of birthday of Ilan Ramon. Ilan Ramon was a celebrated Israeli Air Force pilot and was the first Israeli astronaut in space, who unfortunately died in the Columbia shuttle disaster 20 years ago. And he is connected with one of the most classic Israeli songs ever, one of the most popular and classic Israeli songs there. Actually, here this week in Tel Aviv at our Speakeasy for young professionals, we're going to be doing a crash course in Israeli music. So if anyone is either on the line here or knows someone who might fit the bill, please join us tomorrow evening. You can find the registration information on Nefesh B'Nefesh's website. But next week, we're going to go through one of the most popular classic and quite sad songs that's connected with Ilan Ramon. If you know it already, wonderful. We're going to go through it. It is beautiful Hebrew poetry by one of the most important Hebrew songwriters and poetesses in our modern history. We're going to go through it together. Just like this week, we are going to translate it together, folks. It is important that we translate things together because otherwise it's just a spreadsheet and you can go along yourselves. I want you to be translating at your computer, at your phone with me, even if I can't hear you, even if I can't with each other. Use what Hebrew you have that you're learning along the way from other places so we can do this together in the comfort of your home. You will get the translation at the end of it, but it's important we do this together rather than just force feed you a spreadsheet. At least that's my personal belief and what we've been doing for many years here with Cafe Oleh. With that, toda rabah, thank you all, and I'll see you all next week. Litraot.